This is Essence of GODSPACE Radio. I've missed you so much. So much. Wow, I've missed you. All of you. You're speaking to Nirvana no Kwemselegu. And I want to give thanks to everyone who made the decision to fall in love with someone. And then, boom, came me. Gotta give thanks to my ancestors. Okay, so I've got a lot to talk about. In the weeks that I haven't been posting, I've been doing promotion for my project that's coming out on Valentine's Day, Cosmic Bay Trilogy, as well as some introspection, because there have been some tower moments. And what do I mean by tower moments? I mean that there have been cataclysmic events that have been absolutely necessary to my psychological growth. Absolutely necessary. And I had to go through these things. And these things came with many gifts. These gifts don't necessarily have to look and be as I envision the tone and standard of my life to be, but they're absolutely necessary stepping stones to what I wish life to become for everyone. So, in the past couple of weeks, I've been becoming deeply dissatisfied with the standard at which interpersonal relationships happen at. And I'm not just speaking about romance, I'm not just speaking about heterosexual relationships. I'm speaking about every single form of relationship that you can think of, where you can meet with someone and, like, any form of relationship, any form, which means the relationship with everything, becoming deeply, and when I say deeply, dissatisfied with the standard of those relationships. Man, like, it hit me. Like, it hit me so much that it made me thicken this intolerance to the things that we have collectively made normal. Even though we're not all comfortable with those things, we've made it normal because it is seemingly more uncomfortable to be an opponent or an opposing force of that normalized standard. Okay, so one of the things that I grew deeply intolerant of is deceit. Deceit from myself, my internal deceit, as well as deceit within people and how they come at me. Like, if they're not being honest about who they are, I would be able to sense it. And just the deceit of what we really mean when we say, hello, how are you? Because, man, it just doesn't matter. There's so many things that have no substance. And that bothered me. It really did. There were so many things that were covering each other and trying to pose as one thing when they were the other. Am I making sense? We do this quite often. This tango. So I'm writing a book. It's coming out in June, and it's called Judge the Book by Its Cover. The premise of the book is that your body is information, and everything that your body is the outside of your body is telling you is basically the internal workings of your inner body, and what your inner body's inner workings are reflective of are your emotional body and your belief systems. Largely inspired by spiritual books and holistic healing books by Louise L. Hay. Mainly the book called You Can Heal Your Life, as well as just general knowledge from my Zulu customs about what one thing could mean if I'm sick, as well as Chinese medicine. Just a lot of things, but the book's coming out in June. Come rain, come sunshine. And I began to reflect on the themes of books of power, and I'm going to make an example of Robert Greene. He's one of my favorite mentors, and I know I'm going everywhere, but this is all linking together with this thing I was speaking about the deep satisfaction of the relationship the society has with the world and itself and ourselves, blah, 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 the layers. So I began to reflect on my mentor, Robert Greene, distant mentor. He's an author of a few incredible books, like The Laws of Human Nature, The 48 Laws of Power, Mastery, Seduction, and I think the 33 Strategies of War, which is, I think, an adaptation of Sun Tzu's book on the 33 Strategies of War. I did a very distant and quick analysis of the man, and God forgive me if it is judgment, and it's probably not my place to, but we learn from each other. He had a stroke just before releasing the book, The Laws of Human Nature. It's this thick. That book is this thick. He had a stroke, okay? So Robert Greene, of the interviews that I've watched of him, very gentle man, right? Very Taurus nature, gentle. It's got a very seductive, very gentle seduction about him. You want to speak to him, you want to listen, you want to give him your time, you want to lend him your ears. And although all those things, I could tell, like from the interviews that I watched of him, he was struggling with some physical ailments. I think the recovery from the stroke. The intensity at which he describes writing these books in scares me. Like, it makes my tummy knot. The intensity of books like The 48 Laws of Power, which is one of the first books that I read by him. It's this Machiavellian, it feels like if I were to put an image to it, it almost feels like this guy with horns is talking to you and telling you these secrets and saying, yo, this what it is about life, you're gonna have to accept it. I'm not denying the very unfortunate truths about society and our nature. How we are denying ourselves as a species this evolution, but it's gonna happen. Evolution is inevitable. It's going to happen. Oh my goodness, you guys need to watch The Waking Life. There's a specific, what was that? Let me see. Waking Life. There's a specific name. For the type of evolution that I'm speaking about. The telescopic evolution. You guys need to watch that scene. Just go on to YouTube, Google Waking Life, which is the movie, scene on telescopic evolution, the future of humanity. Cool. So, it's good to know that book, you know, like it's a great book to read. And I think even with himself, he's just like, yo, at the very beginning, he's like, yo, you need to be cognizant of the fact that there's people who actually play these games. And I can tell he's been through the most, sending my love and light to him. He's been through the most, and that mostness afforded him the ability to articulate the flaws of humanity, the social ills of humanity, so eloquently that I could, in an argument with you, show you, should you be exhibiting these qualities, what you are, and you would disengage that archetype. You would disengage, like you would drop your weapons. You would drop your mental weapons. That's the armor that he has given me through this book, and so many other people. Depending on your perspective, some people read the book and then play the archetypes that are in the book. And, you know, we've all done this. But the interesting note that I made about Robert Greene is the depth of the darkness that he's able to go into and still produce such quality work. And he's able to articulate, he's a Taurus, I think. Yeah, he is a Taurus. Articulate the darkness. It's intense. It's gotta have, like, you've gotta have a belief system and some emotional stuff backing that level of that stuff up, your produce. And that, I felt, also led to the stroke. Everything's connected. So this is what the book is about. The one I'm releasing in June. It's basically a guide on holistic healing. I've been having some digestion problems, and it's been affecting my forehead. But the reason I've been having digestion problems is because I've been very stressed and anxious. And the stress and the anxiety comes from a fear of the future. And it's coming from a fear of dishonor and failure. And these things are coming from this inability, or not even an inability, it's just I have been for a while refusing to let go of the ideas that have been holding me back and contributing to the lack of my evolution. So you can see where I've been at. So how do I move forward? How do we move forward? There's a book that I've been reading by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point. The premise of the book is that if you push something to its peak as best as you can, there is a point where it will begin to tip. And this downhill is not a bad thing. The downhill is actually uncontrollable success. Yes. Or an uncontrolled, it's like an epidemic, right? He did some research on the crime in a part of New York where they had an increase in crime over the space of 4 years, and people would not even step out of their homes. And then at some point it dipped and it became a peaceful place, and they would hear like one gunshot every 6-7 months in comparison to them hearing it every day. And this morning, well, not this morning, just before I started recording, I began to think, I'm like, the tipping point, epidemics. What epidemic is happening within myself? What is it about myself? What beliefs am I pushing about myself or within myself that have resulted in an effortless series of events? Tipping point. What is it about me that I believe or that I have been pushing, and by pushing I mean investing my time in, that's been affecting? It's like a domino effect. What is that one, the root? What is that first what pushed the first domino to go in that direction and then affect everything else the way it has? I've been doing this introspection with my health and with my relationships. And right now, the only thing that I can think of is the relationship that I've had with my father. Lots of fear around that. Gosh, you can tell where I've been for the past few weeks. It's just been so hectic. It's been so hectic. So the I Ching says that when stagnation has set in, or when you are able to see the problem in your attitude, in oneself, or in your society that has become, it's an old one and has solidified in its ways, we must spend 3 full days understanding the problem, understanding where it comes from, and then 3 full days in being resolute in discarding that problem, and then another 3 days watching carefully in our minds to see that the problem doesn't come back. Yo. Whew, man. Interesting times. So, this deep dissatisfaction with I don't even want to say the quality of life, but the quality of my relating to life has been something that's been weighing me down. And I think it's been weighing a lot of people down. And in this realization of this deep dissatisfaction, it's deeply rooted. I began to realize that addiction cannot be only prescribed to substance. Addiction is a way of being. It's a way of being to act as a smokescreen and have that smokescreen become your mechanism, excuse me, your coping mechanism. Because the real problem or the truth seems too much to handle. People can be addictions, you know. You can be addicted to people. Breakthrough, resoluteness. A breakthrough. Do not be drawn back into bad habits. The arrival of this hexagram, Guai, indicates that a long-awaited change is at hand. A difficulty that has oppressed you over a long period is now about to dissolve. It is important to respond in the proper way. There is a temptation on obtaining relief to fall into the traps of the ego. Pride at having dispersed the trouble, self-righteousness about having triumphed through correctness, anger at one who we think is the source of the problem, or a desire to remain free of all difficulty in the future. None of these responses is appropriate to the situation at hand. What is needed now is resoluteness, a firm commitment to continuing the battle for good and to the self-examination that makes all good things possible. This is not a time to lapse back into negative mental habits and enjoy the vacation provided by this breakthrough. Do not rest on your laurels, but push forward, deepening your inner strength and your resistance to the influence of inferiors, both in yourself and others. Strengthen those around you by setting an example of self-improvement and self-correction. Great progress and good fortune are available now to one who makes proper use of this opening. It is your habit to indulge in what is inferior. Break your habit now. Persevere in what is right. Accept life, and you will succeed. Restlessness encourages you to force your will on the situation. This brings misfortune. Allow yourself to be led like a quiet lamb by the shepherd of inner truth. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just gonna read something that I wrote in my morning pages. Okay, I'm gonna read the summary, but the first lines are, I don't know what love is. Actually, I think I know, I just haven't been able to accept it. Why? Because I would treat it like a drug or a high. I'm willing to evolve because I know affection and care can last for quite a while. I've just got so much to give. I wish I could look/envision myself and feel love for myself. The love I give my past lovers. I really don't want to go to this thing. Never mind. I'm not going to read my morning pages. But all work is inner work, and that's the one thing I realized. There's nothing that my flesh on its own can do without the power and the will and the purity of my inner being. And I don't even think there's nothing I want my flesh to do if the inner being is not okay. And I think my flesh and my inner being work in harmony together to provide this perfect balance. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I apologize for being away for some weeks. I hope you learned something, and I hope that you contemplate. I truly hope that you contemplate on some of the things that were triggered or inspired within you listening to this. This is Essence of GODSPACE Radio. I love you. Bye-bye.
This is Essence of GODSPACE Radio. This is Essence of